This footage hides a disturbing secret. The couple cheering in the stands is Celeste and Stephen Beard. They are attending the high school graduation of their twins' daughters Jennifer and Christina. Now look closely at the woman sitting alone in front of them. Her name is Tracy Tarleton. From the outside she looks supportive of the twins, clapping as they walk across the stage, but what the girls don't know is just a few months before this footage was taken, Tracy was released from a psychiatric facility and has been meeting with their mother in secret, plotting a violent crime that will force the two teenagers to run for their lives. She's very scary. There wasn't enough locks on the door for the two of us to feel safe. We were scared to death. We thought she would kill the girls. You better get home tonight. Do you understand that? Because if you don't, you will be sorry. It's 1993. 13-year-old Christina lives with her mom Celeste and her stepdad Stephen in Austin, Texas. While Jennifer, Christina's identical twin sister, lives with their biological father Craig in Washington State. The twins' parents went through a lengthy custody battle after their divorce, which ended in the twins being separated. Between both parents living hundreds of miles away from each other was difficult for the girls, because they were each other's best friends. I missed her a lot. I missed Jen a whole lot. We were built-in friends with each other. I would not know how to be a regular siblings. You know, it's always been nice to have someone that knows exactly what I am going through. It was definitely hard not to have my other half. It's July 1996. After 3 years of living apart, the twins have finally planned a summer trip together, reuniting at their grandparents' house in California. They're really excited because it's the first time they have seen each other in over 2 years. My sister and I never skipped a beat, laughing so hard that we were crying, and I just couldn't believe that we actually back together again. However, things take a turn for the worse when Jennifer tries to call their father Craig to let him know that they arrived safely. But no one is picking up the phone. They keep trying to call, but still no answer. After 2 days of not talking, the twins receive the news that their father has been found dead in his home, leaving behind a handwritten letter. He had been quietly struggling for years, leaving his daughters asking themselves why he would do this. I felt like I died that day. The twins are in a state of shock. What was supposed to be only a 2-week reunion turned into Jennifer suddenly moving in with Christina's cell seat and their new stepdad Stephen Beard in Austin, Texas. At first she had a hard time adjusting to the change, but when she met Steve Beard, her new stepdad, he was surprisingly very welcoming and loving, showing a lot of attention to his new stepdaughter. When I first met Steve, he was just so sweet, which was a relief, you know, cause he was technically my stepdad. On Sunday it was really special because Steve and I would always go to breakfast together. I was very grateful to have his relationship after years of living together. The new blended family from the outside appears to be living a happy life. The sisters have just started their senior year of high school and they for once have a stable father figure. Stephen even formally adopted the twins, giving them each a special family ring. He had always wore his. He just gave it to me. He just gave it to us after he adopted us, and we thought it was the coolest thing. I mean, I was definitely moved that he had this special ring made, and I mean just the adoption alone, you know, I felt pretty connected to him. But everything changes on October 2 in 1999 at 2:30 a.m. While back at Stephen's house, Christina is asleep like any other night, when all of a sudden Christina's bedroom door swings open, the lights turn on, and my mom is running through the door saying someone's at the door, and I am like, what is going on here? I just jump out of bed cause she's in a panic, and I am on my way to that front door when I see these white flashing lights. Christina is in a state of shock, not knowing who is outside or what they want, so she runs to the phone and calls 911 in a panic. The girl tell them there is someone banging on their front door and sirens are blaring outside with lights flashing all around their home. Christina rushes to the front door to let the police inside. I open the front door and it's cops, and they're like, "Is your dad home?" And I said, "Yeah. He's upstairs." Christina hurries to her stepfather's bedroom with the police as her mother frantically runs behind them. The paramedics, they were already working on Steve by the time I myself and the police officers got into the room. This was a man who needed immediate medical attention, and they needed to act quickly if he was gonna survive. The paramedics tried to stabilize him, but he is losing a lot of blood while they scrambled to transport him to the hospital as quickly as possible. One of the police officers makes a shocking discovery: a shotgun shell on the ground next to his bed. I'm like, "What are you telling me? He was shot?" And they said yes. And I just couldn't believe it. Christina calls her sister and tells her what is happening as Steve is airlifted to the nearest hospital. I just couldn't believe what he just said. I'm definitely panicking. Back at Beard household, that crime scene is blocked off as investigators conduct their initial walk, though it seems like someone went through a side door which was left unlocked and went up to Steve's bedroom to fatally shoot him, but before they can start investigating their theory they need to take DNA swabs of everything, including all family members who could have been in the house at the time of the crime, Christina, Jennifer, and their mom Celeste. So at that point I'm shocked that first off Steven have been shot, but I wouldn't have even thought who could have done it. I was wondering if it was a burglar or random. But as soon as we walked out of the house, Celeste whispers to me, if the police ask you who might have done this, don't mention Tracy name. Why would Celeste say don't mention Tracy name? 6 mother before the night of the attack, Celeste met 45-year-old Tracy. She was the manager of a local bookstore in Austin and had recently become close friends with Celeste. She would often get invited by the twins' mom for dinner and birthday parties, and even attended their high school graduation. They had this weird friendship. I just remember thinking that this lady wants more from our mom than just a platonic relationship. The twins are on their way to the hospital as they try to understand what's happening. They were confused by their mother not to mention Tracy, but that only raises suspicious in their mind. I was thinking maybe she's protecting Tracy because she thought it was Tracy. After getting to the hospital and talking to the detectives, they asked me who do I believe shot my father, and I said my mom doesn't want me to mention this, but I'm not supposed to say Tracy Tarleton. Tracy Tarleton is investigated, and her closeness to the Beard family makes her the prime suspect, but something is off. Without any clear motive, detectives have suspicions that someone else is involved. There was no reason for Tracy to do this completely on her own. Pollock quickly obtained a search warrant for Tracy Tarleton's house based on compelling evidence, a 20-gauge shotgun shell, the very bullet that had wounded Stephen Beard. They then proceeded to Tracy Tarleton home and knock on her front door. Ms. Tarleton was asked if she owned a shotgun. She said yes. I asked I could see it. She thought for a few minutes and she said yes. Okay, you can see it. She gave us a Franke 20-gauge shotgun, had her name inscribed on the weapon itself. Law enforcement take possession of the shotgun, bringing it in for further analysis. Days goes by and everyone is left waiting for news from the investigator until finally the detectives have the results, and the shotgun turns to be the shotgun from which the bullet that injured Mr. Beard was fired. From October 8, 1999, 5 days after the shooting of Steve Beard, Tracy Tarleton is arrested and charged with attempted murder, but investigators is not satisfied. Tracy is refusing to talk about why did this, and they know there's more to this story than they have so far. Detectives continue ask questions because they believe Tracy did not act alone and there might be someone else responsible who currently walks free, but she remains completely silent. Meanwhile, Stephen is in the hospital, and after a painful few months of fighting with the twins by his side, Stephen passed away from his injuries related to the shooting. We loved Steve. He never wanted us to worry about anything. He just wanted us to be loved and enjoy our lives. Coming from Washington State, losing my father, he filled that role for me that I'll never forget. As the sisters try to cope with their father's death, they're only left with pain and more question than ever. Why would someone want to hurt him? Their mother Celeste tries to be there for them and goes with the girls to prepare for the funeral and buy a casket for him, but the twins never expected what would happen next. A lot of crying going on. We just lost a loved one, and while we were there she purchased 2 pink caskets for Jen and I, and she's like, I'm gonna get these for you guys. The confusing part to me was Celeste suggesting that 18-year-olds needed to pick out a casket. And in the back of my mind I thought, am I going in this casket? Soon local newspapers and television networks start publishing the story, and everyone starts to worry that the real killer might still be walking free, but without any concrete evidence. The investigators are at a standstill. The twins notice their mom's behavior is becoming increasing and erratic. We are all crying, and Celeste is just laughing. Her alleged lesbian lover, Tracy Tarleton, was convicted of murder after she shot Stephen with a shotgun, and he died 3 months later from complications. Through a plea deal, Tarleton testified that it was Celeste who planned the murder. Growing up with Celeste was very unstable. One of Celeste's twin daughters, Jennifer Beard, told ABC News, "There were times where we would get dropped off in a foster home and not even understand what happened. She had her moments where she seemed like she was nice," said her other daughter, Christina Fritz. But you don't know what's going to happen. One particular incident, at a time when Stephen and Celeste were planning to get divorced and Celeste was struggling with depression, stood out. She got a gun, and then she started just waving it around, said Christina. It was like everybody was fair game in the room. And it was myself, Steve, and her. Celeste was eventually voluntarily admitted to the mental health department of a hospital in Austin, Texas, where the family was living. There she befriended Tracy Tarleton, and the women's close relationship would prove deadly for Stephen. Tarleton would go on to shoot Stephen, which she said was upon Celeste's request. When Tarleton implicated Celeste in the murder, her daughters had to decide whether they would testify at. Although they were no longer living with her, the twins said the relationship with their mother at that point was verbally and psychologically abusive. She was saying psychological, horrible stuff, said Christina. So I just started taping our conversations when they would get out of hand. In these recordings, which were introduced as evidence in Celeste Beard's trial, she can be heard yelling at her daughters, crying hysterically, and using profanity. In a shocking decision, they decided to testify against their mother. Did I want to testify against my mom? No. I wanted a mom, Christina told ABC News. I wanted what my kids are getting. During the trial, prosecutors Gary Cobb and Allison Wetzel brought forward a piece of evidence, a recording from Christina's phone that captured Celeste screaming and saying, "I hired somebody to kill Tracy." Celeste Beard's lawyers claimed at trial that the tape had been spliced, that Celeste never said that, and that it made it appear worse than it was. The judge ruled the tape was authentic and admissible. Celeste was never charged in connection with the alleged murder. The twins would also testify that their mother would tell them she married Stephen for his money, that he disgusted her, and then when he died she would get all of his money. When he came home from the hospital and hadn't died from the gunshot wounds, she took every opportunity she could to speed it along, Christina told ABC News. Celeste had been changing his wounds with dirty hands, she said. Celeste said, "I never changed his bandages. I never did anything like they're saying." Her defense attorney pointed out at trial that she took Stephen back to the hospital the day after he returned home when he started to appear unwell. The defense also tried to argue the twins were testifying against their mother for money, but they denied that. I testified against Celeste for justice for Steve, Jennifer told ABC News. Celeste Beard was eventually convicted. Speaking to ABC News correspondent John Quinones from her jail cell, she told him that what she wanted more than anything was to speak with her daughters. "I would tell them that I always loved them," she said. "And I'm sorry that I wasn't the mother that you needed me to be." Both of her daughters told ABC News they don't forgive her.